We didn't even want to talk about it during the week. We didn't talk about the fact that the running game was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I am going to say is this. I know that it might not be a favorite pick, and it'll make more sense later on. But within what McLeod Bethel Thompson did, I know he's knocked out for the next 6 games. But his performance was putrid.
Yeah, I mean he's not the guy he was a couple of years ago when he when the Toronto Argonauts, when he led the Toronto Argonauts to the Grey Cup, gets hurt in that game, and Chad Kelly steps in and leads the Argos the rest of the way. Yes, he can throw the ball a lot, but he's just not the same guy he was a couple of years ago. We know about what happened in Edmonton last year, all the let's say controversy, but all the things that he was saying in the press, and just the way that the Elks were just giving up on each other compared to this year. And I've said that in previous weeks, this team could easily have a winning record right now if things go right. But Edmonton, to their credit, they're fighting, they're clawing, they're scratching, and it's resulted in this win. So, are they out of the playoff hunt? Probably, but for the rest of the season, that's going to be a team that's going to give opponents a very tough time, and they gave Montreal a very tough time, and it wound up resulting in a win.
And we've talked about it all year long so far now through 2.5 months. We have to look at the fact that the Elks have been at the top tier of dumpster pelicanisms here within the CFL. It's been absolutely terrible to watch. But in this game, they pull off the upset against your team, and for that, they deserve for me to officially click this button. Meant to do that earlier, but misplaced the button. It's been one of those Fridays, Mr. McCarthy. It has been one of those days. But we are back rocking and rolling with this when it comes to Week 10, Edmonton and Montreal. We do have a few comments we want to acknowledge here in the chats. Thank you to those of you who are active and talking to us out here in these streams. Looks like Sick Diggy is out here saying, "What's good, everybody?" All the way from Norway. What's going on out there, brother?
What's happening, Sick Diggy? Appreciate you coming by.
Love having you here for episode 97. We know the shenanigaristic comments are going to be in the chat. That's a new word.
And probably and ads too.
I've said shenanigans, and now shenanigaristic. Let me know what you think of that word. I promise you, it's not in Webster's. Look it up, Google it, figure it out. It's not there. I just created it. I promise you. Now, back to this. Sick Diggy, welcome back. Also, your friend over there from the No Credentials Required Zone, Desiree's back saying, yay! She's happy. We are here in America talking football. Canadian football.
American bread.
This was not planned.
No, it wasn't.
He wore his America shirt. I threw this on Bad Hair Day, representing America, and the T-shirt because, hey, there are some things later on the program that we're going to be talking about as a representation of America going away from CFL back into NFL professional football.
Shout out to former strongman and current professional arm wrestler Brian Shaw. It's his brand shirt. Draw strength.
Draw strength. As sports ball talk is back. That's a term that Ryan likes to say quite a bit, the sports ball.
Sports ball season.
She's loving America. I was about to sing it. No, I was literally, I had to censor myself in real time. If you saw the lips, you go back 10 seconds, look at it. It was about to come out. I had to stop. Thank you for bringing that out of me. Waking up here on the program. But with that right here, the Friday game has been recapped. We're going to go ahead and take this on into our next set of games, which come from Saturday. And here at the Saturday games, Ryan, there were two of them as for the past couple of weeks. And going forward for quite some time, it looks like we're going to have Saturday action 2 times in the CFL instead of just Saturdays and Sundays outside of Friday. And we got to take a look at this game right here between the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Toronto Argonauts. And we'll talk more about the Red Blacks here in just a little bit. But with this game between the two, Drew Brown was absolutely on fire in this game. 26 of 31 for 373 passing yards and 5 passing touchdowns. Dustin Crum had 2 carries for 1 rushing yard. I know it's a stat you really don't cover, but he had a rushing touchdown as a result from it. William Stanback, 17 carries for 84 rushing yards, along with 2 receptions for 9 receiving yards as well. Braylon Addison, 7 receptions, 115 yards, and a touchdown, along with Justin Hardy's 7 receptions for 106 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And Geno Lewis, 5 receptions for 51 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, round out the 5 passing touchdowns thrown by Drew Brown in that afternoon. The Red Blacks defense didn't really have but so much action because they gave up 42 points. But hey, they had an interception by Robert Priester. Outside of that, the total penalties for the team, 5 for 45 on the day. But when it came to their offense, they were unstoppable, putting up 46 points, 5 of 5 in the red zone for 100%. It's pretty hard to do in professional football, not just to go 100% on the day in the red zone, but to do it 5 times out of 5 attempts. That's pretty tough. Nick Arbuckle, 32 of 38 for 317 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, along with 6 carries for 19 yards and a rushing touchdown for the losing team, the Toronto Argonauts. It's not every day you put up 42 points and lose, but it happened in this game. Argos total rushing without Arbuckle, though. Here's the Achilles heel. 6 carries, 30 rushing yards, and that primarily came from Deontay McMahon. Dejan Brissett, 6 receptions, 89 receiving yards, and a touchdown, along with Jake Herslow's 6 receptions for 84 receiving yards and a touchdown. Weren't quite enough, but it was quite a bit of production that the offense put up when it came to their receiving core. Not their running backs, but the receiving core put up some action. Their defense, though, a little more active than the other side. 2 sacks and 1 fumble recovery, even though they gave up 46 points. But one thing that kind of hurt this team, a guy that I have put on a pedestal, even though I can't mother-fathering pronounce his last name, but Lirim, 2 of 3 on the day for field goals, contributing only 9 points. We expect more out of you, Lirim. That's your name. I don't care. I'm trying my best. But when it comes to you, we expect more out of you. When it comes to my offside the sheets rant that I just threw out there, Ryan, offside the sheets, making up new terms today. When it comes to all that, what are your overall thoughts on this game that we saw from Saturday afternoon?
Would you constitute this game as the game of the week?
Absolutely. I would definitely constitute that as this right here.
The game of the week. Absolutely. I sat Saturday night. I watched those highlights, and I'm going, nobody's. This is gonna be an offensive shootout. And I think we talked about this on last Friday, when I said, it's gonna be one of those games where it's gonna be a high scoring affair. I wouldn't say there was a whole lot of defense played. I mean, we had a Robert Priester with his interception to wrap up the game for the Red Blacks at the end. Mm-hmm. We had a fumble recovery for a touchdown by Jordan Williams of the Toronto Argonauts that put them up 22-1 after the first quarter. 22-1. But to their credit, the Red Blacks just kept plugging away, kept getting defensive stops, which led their offense to keep going. And by halftime, the score was 25-19. It was a huge swing, a huge momentum swing for the Red Blacks after that Jordan Williams return, a scoop and score for a touchdown. And give credit where credit's due to Drew Brown for, if you watch those highlights, he I don't know how to explain it. His fumble was just it was just he just let go of the football. I think he was trying to brace himself to make sure he didn't kill his left shoulder. But it was as he was going down and let go of the ball, and Jordan Williams is right there, scoop and score for a long touchdown. But the Red Blacks, man, just keep plugging it away. And like I said, this offense is much, much different with a healthy Drew Brown in the lineup. And it's kind of a foreshadow to our Thursday game of the events that happened there. But there weren't a lot of turnovers. It was 2 turnovers, but one led the scoring and one just wrapped up the game. Arbuckle had a tremendous performance and a very impressive performance himself. It was just basically a shoot. It was like, it was just a shootout. The Red Blacks finally got the run game going a little bit. William Stanback with 17 carries and 84 yards. So I was looking for him. I was just kind of looking to see, where he is. Where's William Stanback? You brought in William Stanback, who's a veteran CFL running back, and you don't barely use him because you're always throwing the ball. But Red Blacks got him going in this game and had ripped off a 16-yard run that kept the drive alive, which was nice. Justin Hardy, nice effort, 106 yards. Gino Lewis, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns, keeping his momentum going. Braylon Addison had an impressive game too, 115 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, this came down to basically the last drive for the Red Blacks, and they went up scoring, and they tried to go for 2 because they wanted. I'm not sure why they went for 2 and they didn't convert it. I think they're trying to go up 6 at that point. But Arbuckle tried to lead the Argonauts, throw a deep pass downfield. If you looked at the replay, it kind of looked there was pass interference, but it turns out it was not pass interference, and the play stood, and Robert Priester ended the game. And this was a shootout. And Argonauts, the Red Blacks, they've won 2 in a row, and they're trying to creep up the Eastern standings and trying to get that coveted 3rd spot, so there's no crossover in the intra-divisional crossover from the West into the East. But maybe, and hopefully the momentum continues this week. Although, again, foreshadowing, they had a short week this week and playing on Thursday's game. But yeah, I mean, Ottawa, they're playing much better after their bye week. They're playing much better, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, there's still some things to work out, but it's they're doing the right thing at the right
time. Everything you said is true. I feel like it's a little bit of an understatement, though, on a few things to work out for the defense. They got a lot to work out, Mr. McCarthy. When you give up that many points, especially to an Argonauts team, it's been kind of I mean, both teams, to an extent, they've been kind of inconsistent this year. They've both been just kind of Drew Brown hasn't played in every single game, or hasn't been consistent in every single game. We haven't seen games like what he put up here throughout the entirety of these 10 weeks. So putting it all in a bow, they need this type of production out of their offense in order to really have a successful 2025 season, because their defense is not going to be what carries them into a potential Grey Cup contending ship.
No, I figured Ottawa was a contender this year. They could have come out of the East. But going back to what you said about Toronto, man, for a team that won the Grey Cup last season to have such a fall off this season is alarming. I don't think the head coach, Ryan Dinwiddie's, in trouble, but when your primary quarterback, Chad Kelly, hasn't returned yet, had that really nasty ankle injury in the Eastern Division final last year, and you let go of your best running back before the season begins, who was responsible for most of your rushing production last year, it's starting to show. And the offense had a great game this game, and Arbuckle balled out, but towards the end, it was just that one interception and a couple plays here and there that they couldn't couldn't put together that prevented them from getting the win.
Hey, but Toronto did make a move this week. They signed somebody from Smithfield, Virginia, not too far from where I'm at here on the East Coast,
Hey.
from Virginia State University, who actually has bounced around a little bit in NFL training camps, but was part of the 2025 UFL champion DC Defenders team that won. He was just released, though, last week by that organization. But the cornerback from there, Willie Drew Jr., is going to be part of the Toronto Argonauts moving forward. So we may see him this weekend, or hey, that's tonight. So tonight at 9 o'clock. I don't know if he literally just got signed a couple of days ago. I don't know if they're going to plug him in this quick, but they, as a result of this game, giving up 46 points, they addressed their secondary by bringing in another quarterback, and probably more than just him over this week when you consider the fact he just gave up 46 points in a team that really shouldn't have beat you like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I figured that was a cool little side note to throw out there this week, because that literally just happened over the last 48 hours. But with all that being said, that's 2 games so far. We got one more game to cover here within Saturday's Scoop, and let's take it there. And that next game was at 7 o'clock p.m. between 2 teams that it was another game that was pretty close. The one thing, we were kind of spoiled this past weekend, Ryan, with games that were very close and very, they kind of kept us down to the wire. And when you have a game like this between the Calgary Stampeders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, that, a team, these 2 teams have been playing pretty decent over this season, right? Vernon Adams Jr. has had a couple games where he's gotten lit up a little bit. PJ Walker had to come in a little bit. And now we have a situation where Vernon Adams Jr. is back. We got a healthy squad. It's not what we've seen over the last couple of weeks with PJ Walker. And he's able to come in, go 17 of 24 for 300 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, along with Dedrick Mills putting up 18 carries, like here, for 105 rushing yards. Jalen Philpott, 5 receptions, 88 receiving yards, along with Tevin Jones, 2 receptions for 86 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. The Stampeders defense, 4 sacks on the day. Didn't force any turnovers, but you had 4 sacks. Rene Paredes put up a decent amount of points. Actually put up half the points for the team as the field goal kicker. Went 4 of 4 on the day for 14 points. Big contributions coming from their special teams there. Chris Strevler on the other side, 1 pass, 1 completion, only 2 yards. But he had 4 carries for 4 yards on the day and a touchdown. All that before the touchdown sounded like, why are you even talking about this guy? But the touchdown makes a difference, I promise. Zach Collaros, 21 of 26 for 214 passing yards and a touchdown, along with 3 carries for 23 yards on the day. That's how I feel about that. Brady Oliveira, though, still remains solid for this team. He is the team's MVP this season. I don't care what anybody else says. You may say something else, and then I'll change my mind if that probably. But outside of you, I don't care what anybody else says. Brady Oliveira is my thought for MVP for this team, because even though they lost 12 carries on the day for 68 rushing yards, 9 receptions for 100 receiving yards, as their running back put up 168 combined yards on the day. Jarrett Stearns, the receiver for the team, 3 receptions for 27 yards. But hey, he had a receiving touchdown. Nick Dembski only had 3 receptions for 28 yards, and that was your 2 top-tier receivers on the day, which is why this team failed to do anything outside of their running back, because their receivers just couldn't really haul in those targets they had. The Blue Bombers totaled penalties on the day, 5 for 76 yards. And Sergio Castillo in this Saturday 7 p.m. game goes 4 of 4 for 14 total points in the big old fat old snake. With all that being said, for this Saturday contest, Ryan, what are your overall thoughts?
Oh man, Winnipeg. I'm not used to them blowing a 17-point lead. They were up 17-0 in the first half, and Vernon Adams has that long touchdown pass to Tevin Jones. That was a big momentum swing. At halftime, it's 23-16. So you know, Calgary rallied back from a 17-point deficit, score 16 points in the second quarter, and they keep it close. But I got to talk about Winnipeg's offense. All those stats he put up didn't really mean a big thing in the second half because they put up all of 4 points in the second half alone, only in the fourth quarter primarily. They had a single from a punt, and they had Sergio Castillo tying a CFL record with a 63-yard field goal to actually put them up 27-25, but you left too much time on the clock for Vernon Adams Jr. because there's only a minute left in the game. He does 2 completions, couple rushes up the middle, sets up for Rene Paredes to hit the field goal from 40 yards in a game that Winnipeg actually had to have. Winnipeg had to have this game, and they already were down 2-0 against Calgary. They already been beaten by Calgary twice in the first 2 previous matches. They got absolutely curb stomped during the Stampede Bowl, and 2 weeks later, they got stomped at home. Come into Calgary, played a tough game, went up 17-0, and I was like, oh my, this could be this could possibly be an upset this week. But Calgary battled back. Vernon Adams Jr., he's high risk, high reward, but when you get to those rewards, there's a reason why he's called Big Play VA. So, because it's either a big play for your team or a big play for another team, but he showed up and threw 2 touchdowns, both Tevin Jones, and one of them was that big reception that kind of swung the momentum towards Calgary's way. And the one thing that Calgary did that Winnipeg didn't in this game was that they controlled the ground game. Although, actually, I'm sorry, Winnipeg had the greater time of possession, but Calgary did better they made more out of it in their time of possession, because Dedrick Mills had another 100-yard game, and I believe he's leading the league in rushing currently. If I go to my stats board here. No, actually, I'm sorry. He's second. James Butler has 704 yards for BC. But
he's a
yeah,
powerhouse.
I mean, he is a powerhouse, and I'm kind of shocked that Hamilton let him walk after last year. But they went with Greg Bell, and they made their choice. But Dedrick Mills, 105 yards was one of the primary reasons why Calgary won. Is they kept the ball on the ground. They were effective. Their running game was effective. Vernon Adams Jr. could get open, find his receivers or make plays to prevent sacks. It's very unusual to see a pretty clean sheet from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in terms of sacks. They had none. They had no sacks this game, and the Stampeders defense had 4. So I think that was a big contributing factor in the second half, where Winnipeg only had 4 points after scoring 23 in the first half. So Winnipeg's got a lot of work to do. It's a kind of a foreshadowing into what Thursday's game was. Again, short week for both teams, for both Ottawa and Winnipeg. But Calgary is a much improved team from last year. Last year we kind of left them in the dust after Labor Day, and this year they're much improved. They're more physical. They're more more physical up front, as evidenced in the running game on offense. In the defense, they have a lot of sacks. They're preventing a lot of big chunk run plays. So they're very physical. I wouldn't be surprised if they represent the West coming out in the Grey Cup this year. But Calgary they sweep Winnipeg, which is very unusual for a team to do, especially in this era of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You don't see a team sweep them in the regular season, and that's what happened here in Calgary. If the teams are tied in points at the end of the season, Calgary's hosting a playoff game between the two of them.
And I definitely agree with that. I will say when it comes to the Big Play VA nickname, it does this to me. Because like you said, he's either making a big play for his team or for the other one. You're guaranteed some type of electricity in his game when he steps on the field.
Yeah, when he has protection like he had this game, he threw for 300 yards, didn't get sacked once, and he was contributing for his team. So congratulations to Calgary.
And whether that's a total
surprise, motherfucker,
or not to you when it comes to that type of nickname, you want to know what's kind of surprising to me right now? I just noticed something. This is random talk. Plastic was still on the camera.
You forgot to remove the plastic from the camera. Plastic.
That's awesome.
Clip that.
38 minutes in. Nice. Now, when it comes to cameras and plastics and games, we have to at least acknowledge one thing from this past week, from week 10. All 4 games, Thursday through Saturday, were decided by 4 points or less. I can't remember the last time we had that much of a competitive weekend in CFL, let alone in professional football. Because, it's easier when you only have 4 games.
Yeah.
But the UFL wasn't even that competitive. And talking about them all spring long, there was no type of competition like that throughout 4 games. I'll go back and double check to bring that up on the future episode. But right now, I will say week 10 spoiled the expletive out of us because of whether it was just a battle of offenses or a literal slobber knocker back and forth fight for a close win by a point or two. That's literally what we saw in week 10. And that was pretty exciting to go over just now. So I like that. That was good football. But we're not done yet. We still have one more game left to recap, and that is the Thursday matchup between these two teams. These two teams right here, the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And we kind of alluded to it earlier that we were going to be talking about these two teams once again at some point in this program. And we're doing it right now, talking about these two teams for the first game of week 11 that we just saw from last night. These two teams battled. Zach Collaros, 24-34, 298 passing yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. That's definitely a statistic that you usually don't hear from the winning side, but they held strong because he even put up 3 carries for 25 yards on the night. And Brady Oliveira was not as solid as he was in the game where I just gave him praise for 168 combined yards, but he was able to put up a little bit of statistics when he did 10 carries for 35 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown with 4 receptions for 29 receiving yards on the night. Nick Dembski, 6 receptions for 128 receiving yards, along with Jared Stearns, 4 receptions for 50 receiving yards and a touchdown. We need to see how many consecutive games that Jared Stearns has scored a touchdown, because I feel like every single week since the CFL started, we've been talking about him scoring touchdowns. He has been absolutely lighting it up and did so for a team that found a way to win by a field goal. Blue Bombers total penalties on the night, 6 for 74 yards, along with their defense, 1 sack and an interception by Evan Holm. Sergio Castillo, 3 completed field goals out of 4 attempts for 12 total points. On the other side for the Red Blacks, a team that just lost by 3 points, Drew Brown, somebody who lit it up with 5 touchdowns the weekend before, only puts up 12 completions out of 21 attempts for a total of 166 passing yards and an interception, along with 1 carry for 1 rushing yard. Dustin Crum comes in 11 of 17, 125 passing yards, and a touchdown, along with 6 carries for 21 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. William Stanback, the running back, puts up 8 carries for 50 rushing yards, along with 1 reception for 12 receiving yards. The receivers, Geno Lewis, 5 receptions for 72 receiving yards, and Justin Hardy's 2 receptions for 48 yards and a touchdown round out their receiving action. The Red Blacks' total penalties, 7 for 55 yards on the day. But their defense is what kept them into this game with 2 interceptions by CJ Colden and King Ambers. Their special teams put up 2 field goals by Lewis Ward, who was 2 of 2 on the day for 9 total points. Looking back at this Thursday matchup between these 2 teams, Ryan, what are your overall thoughts when looking back on last night's game?
Winnipeg's fortunate to escape because they were dominating this game throughout until the fourth quarter came around. And in the fourth quarter, first of all, shout out to Drew Brown. He got hurt in this game, which is why he has to see the lower numbers than he had last week. And Dustin Crum came in relief of him and didn't look like the quarterback he had been prior to Drew Brown coming back. But he was the guy who's the catalyst who kept the Red Blacks going in this game, especially in the fourth quarter. Solid numbers: 125 yards and a touchdown, 6 carries for 21 yards and a touchdown. He was keeping Ottawa in this game after Winnipeg went up 20-3 at halftime. Again, another 17-point lead for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that absolutely vanished in the thin air in the second half. And which should have Blue Bombers fans a little concerned because it's 2 weeks in a row they've had a 17-point lead evaporate in a single half, or in last week's case against Calgary, a single quarter. But it was looking pretty good for them in the first quarter, and again, second half you only scored 10. You scored only 10 points. And 0 points again in the third quarter. They had no points in the third quarter last week against Calgary. So Ottawa did a great job of containing Brady Oliveira, who I'm not sure if you know this, Drew, but this was actually that touchdown he scored, that rushing touchdown he scored, was his first rushing touchdown of the season. We're in week 11.
But he's been like him and Justin Rankin are like the 2 main running backs of the league that are like big time receivers as well.
Yes, they're versatile. They're
hybrid backs.
Very good. Yeah, they're very good running backs. They're also very good pass receivers out of the backfield. But that was his first rushing touchdown. When I heard that, when I was listening to the highlights this morning, and you hear the announcers, the play-by-play announcer saying this is his first rushing touchdown of the year, that absolutely blew my mind because I didn't realize that was his first touchdown rushing this year. And we're week 11. We're just about the halfway point of the season this week, which is incredible. Gotta get Nick Nepsky as part of the offense, and he did his job. 126 receiving yards. Blue Bombers defense again, kind of a light night. 1 sack and a turnover. I believe they also had a blocked punt as well. But my highlights go to the Iowa Red Blacks, and we talk about Sergio Castillo, 3 for 4 on field goal attempts tonight, and he got kicked the game-winning field goal with no time left on the clock. But that missed field goal was returned 117 yards for a touchdown, which tied the game. This was by Khalil Pimpleton. We saw what happened in the game against Edmonton about a month ago when Devontae Dedmon had that very devastating knee injury that ended his season. And you thought to yourself, okay, what's Ottawa going to do? They put in Khalil Pimpleton, and he had a punt return that game for a touchdown against Edmonton. He's been doing a really solid job as the replacement for Devontae Dedmon. There's one thing that Ottawa can do. It's return kicks. And there, it doesn't matter who's there, whether it be a Devontae Dedmon who has lit up the league the last couple of seasons, or this season with Khalil Pimpleton, who has a punt return and now a missed field goal return for a touchdown. He almost brought one back last week against Toronto. Unfortunately, he ran into his own guy and set the 10. But he got it back this week, and it was an impressive run that tied the score. You saw a shot of the fans in the stands. You saw the one lady just kind of cover her mouth like, "Oh my God, what is happening?" But to their credit, Winnipeg got the stop. They exchanged punts. Winnipeg got it back with a handful of minutes left. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Actually, Ottawa had a golden chance to get to seal this game. Zach Collaros threw an interception with 46 seconds left, but Ottawa was forced a 2-and-out, and Zach Collaros got him within field goal range, and Sergio Castillo again with another long field goal attempt. This one sealed the game. So Ottawa actually had a chance to complete the comeback and win this game, but unfortunately their offense couldn't. Unfortunately, it couldn't get the yards needed to get that upset. But man, Winnipeg, I would be concerned right now. I mean, yes, they got the win. You're 5-4. You're third place in the West Division. But the last 2 weeks, the lead, you had multi-score leads, and you blew them, and both of them just vanished. They vanished. They had 17-point halftime lead. They had 17-point first half lead against Calgary. They had 17-point halftime lead against Ottawa. Almost let it get away from them. And maybe the shine is the Blue Bombers got to do some cleaning up to do. Look at the schedule. They are actually, let's see, are they off next week? Yes, they're off next week. So this is their first bye week coming up next week in week 12. And they had one in week 1. They've played 11 consecutive games, and now they've got so they played 9 consecutive games, and no, they had another bye week in between games against Calgary. Sorry. But they have a bye week next week, so they got some things to go over, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and to help them. If they want to remain contenders, if they want to go back to the Grey Cup for their 6th consecutive time and win one and truly make this a dynasty, I got some things to figure out. I guess look at the man in the mirror, as they say. Michael Jackson, rest in peace. They gotta look at the man in the mirror. Look at the man in the mirror and figure some things out if they want to go on a run. I want to go on a deep run once again.
Deep diving, especially with the I had to do it one more time because we did not get to talk about one team because one team was on a bye this week, Ryan McCarthy, and that is my team, known as the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And don't you worry, because we got a preview here in a little bit where I get to talk about the Roughriders one more time. But I had to send Ryan off with that because, this episode's a little shortened one, unfortunately, for myself, but for others to get to enjoy the company of Mr. McCarthy tonight. He gets to go out and do some other things. But I want to thank you, most importantly, again, for taking the time to be here today to recap that CFL action, because especially in this game that we had just seen from last night, you are a legend within the scopes of the CFL, at least through my eyes, as a visionary, kind of like Seth freaking Rollins, when it comes to Canadian football. So I want to make sure I gave you your flowers, as you deserve a World Heavyweight Championship run, just like Seth freaking Rollins is right now.
Acknowledge me.
I just did.
Let me talk to you.
That too. But with all that being said there, sir, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to give before we take commercial break, but you depart for the remainder of the episode?
No, I'm looking forward to another exciting week of CFL action. I know the Thursday games will wrap up pretty soon as the NFL comes back. I think the next 2 weeks are the last 2 Thursday weeks we have remaining on the schedules. They switched over to primarily Friday and Saturday double headers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We had that last year too. So,
NFL, they don't want to compete against the big boys. So, but we also have Labor Day weekend coming up too. Labor Day classics are also on their way. So, I'm enjoying the action so far. CFL talk, and enjoy coming on here and talking some CFL and hopefully continue for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. You guys have been absolutely crushing over there with No Credentials Required as well. Bringing in the coverage with multiple faceted things within sports. But, you talk about CFL on multiple platforms. We appreciate you being able to take the time to bring that here as well. And for those of you out there with Total Football Talk, there are a couple of announcements that Ryan and I have discussed outside of the show that I'll be bringing to you here very shortly, and excited about that going forward for this program right here. But with all that being said, for August 15th, for episode 97 of Total Football Talk, at least with our guy, Mr. McCarthy, we're going to go ahead and send this into a commercial break and wish him a good rest of the evening. We will see you here on the other side of this commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2 on 2 on 2. Ready? Break.